Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. It's a joy to be with you as we talk about politics. Um, the 2026 midterms are upon us, but we're still relitigating 2024 because we're trying to make sense of that. I can't wait to, in going forward, talk about Kamala Harris's book once I read it. Quite frankly, got an advanced copy. I've been reading parts of it, and I've been reading a lot of these books that have done postmortems on the 2024 election, and that ought to be very interesting. Um, and we are looking at gerrymandering that has gone wild all over the country. We could see former Kansas City, Missouri mayor, Congressman Cleaver, brilliant pastor, preacher, and elected official. I, President Trump has very specifically said that he wants to remove him from office and he's going to be gerrymandered out. He won 58% of the vote in 2024, President Trump did. And yet the gerrymandering would give 90% of the representation to right wing Republicans. You know that's unfair, everybody. That's why you need to have bipartisan commissions. And quite frankly, you should have nonpartisan commissions drawing these districts properly so that people can be represented, period. When will we learn? When will we learn? So we're going to talk about that and talk about how and if the Democrats can reclaim ground that they lost with African Americans, with Arab Americans, with Hispanic Americans. They are bleeding, hemorrhaging their base. And I'm wondering if they really are sufficiently supportive of those who've made the runs for freedom, like Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds and his colleagues. Because we need to stand more fulsomely, more forcefully for these people who are saying, hey, wait a minute, we've got a real problem. It was because these Texas state representatives ran for freedom that we began to look at gerrymandering. It was always on the menu, but we had not even opened up the book. And now here we are. The president is deliberately going state by state and redrawing the maps in what is basically, it's so rare, it's almost unprecedented. In the middle of a census cycle, you redraw these districts the year after the census, which is a year ending in one. It's very rare that you do it in the middle of a decade. But before we begin, I want to offer my prayers and thoughts to the family of Charlie Kirk. He's a conservative commentator, someone with whom I have not found much common ground at all. And certainly, um, he has not, uh, I have wanted to see a change in tone, because uh, the vitriol doesn't serve us well. Well, he was at an event with thousands of people in Utah today, and he was shot and killed. 31 years of age. Whatever you think of his politics, this is a tragedy. And it's a tragedy for all of us, for all of us. Um, and I hope that you will pray for him, pray for his soul, and pray for his family, pray for the people who loved him, and pray for all of us, because it's not going to end with him, sadly. This is where we are in our thinking, and that's the tragedy. We have not learned that this is not the way you resolve a disagreement. You don't kill people, you don't hurt people. And that's why I encourage us in this chat line, my morning stars, to keep the conversation, keep the tone elevated. Because violence does not begin with fisticuffs, it begins with the thought in your head. You're first violent up here, then it comes through your mouth. And then the words have power. In the beginning was the word, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it does not stop. And a lot of us in social media because we can function in the comfort of anonymity. We say all kinds of things that we would not dare say to someone in their face rush. We do things to people. When you say something unkind to someone, you've done something to someone. I had a very interesting experience, more than 20 years ago. I was visiting some friends, and it turns out there was a young man who was Israeli. And of course, being Israeli, he had served in the IDF. And we were out having dinner, and we were dancing and having a nice time. And as we were looking out over the bay, looking into the ocean, he was looking on the other side of the shore. And he said, and he aimed his finger. He said, I could kill someone miles away. And I looked at him and I said, why would you do that? And my host, my friend, looked and said, oh, I said, no, no. I want to know, why would you do that? I said, because I don't know if they told you, but, my family worked for Dr. King. We didn't just march with him. My father worked for him for $75 a week that he had to raise. So I'm from the nonviolent school. I can't wrap my mind around killing someone, because when you kill someone, you kill a lot of dreams. You break a lot of hearts. So a lot of people are in a lot of pain today. And I want us to be mindful of that, even as especially as we have this conversation. Renee Criswell, of course, retired teacher and someone whose intellect knows no bounds. And I thank God that you're here today. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, Rush Darwish, Arab Americans Forward. And so let us move forward. Let us talk about 2026. But I think that 2026, Representative Reynolds will be colored by the events of today. I've got a brother who's in Congress now, and we've been so blessed. I think we might be the first family in American history to send two African American brothers or siblings to Congress. That's what we've been told. And we're grateful that the people feel that way about them. That having been said, my brother, who is currently serving, has a full security detail now because people have threatened to kill them, and some people have tried. Don't want our parents to know that, because they're older now. My father does not want to hear that. He said, I can take the hits. I didn't want that for my children. But when you stand up, that's what happens. So I guess I want to start there because people are in their feelings about a lot of things. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. And I'm hoping that we will begin to change the tone and change our ways. I think about Gabby Giffords. Thank God she survived. But she survived by paying a tremendous price. And so, Representative Reynolds.
Yeah, first of all, I join you in mourning the death of Mr. Kirk. I think that was really unconscionable that someone would senselessly take his life. I may not have agreed with any policy or position that he had. We may be totally on different sides of the aisle, but that does not make him an enemy to me where I want to see him assassinated. That I don't wish on my worst enemy. I do believe in the freedom of speech. I think it needs to be respectful. I do believe in differences of opinions, and I think that we can vigorously debate and have dialogue about policy positions. I don't expect to agree with people. I'm a proud Christian, but I don't wish atheists or someone who is a skinhead or Nazi, I don't wish them harm, right? I don't want them harming anyone, but I don't want anyone harming them either. So this is a real tragic situation that I would be saying if it was someone whom was in my party affiliation. So I denounce it just as much as I would if it was someone that I like and respect. So thank you for starting off with that, because I think that it's so important that we have decorum. I've seen a real just a real terrible um, slippery slope when it comes to the way that we demonize people that we don't agree with, right? I've seen vitriol where people say, lock them up, kill them. I'm
Mhm.
like, really? This is, no, I want to defeat them at the ballot box.
Mhm.
I don't want to kill them. Just like when Trump, you could debate whatever happened in terms of an assassination attempt. I was like, no, that's not the way I want to win an
Mhm.
election by killing someone or having someone killed. So I think we take things too far, and so it's time to reflect, to pray for his family. It's time to heal and be more statesmanlike and bring decency and decorum back into this dialogue. Having said that, it's always great to be on your show with some amazing panelists, and I am uh, going to continue to vigorously advocate for the policy positions that I support and the positions that I take. But I'm going to be cognizant of the kind of rhetoric that I use to make sure that I'm not uh, inciting this kind of violence. I think we should all be careful at the rhetoric that we use because people are paying attention. And I think that, unfortunately, quite frankly, President Trump has created an environment that is very hostile and aggressive towards dissenting voices, that they have no place, that you extinct them, you get them rid of them, you make
Mhm.
sure that they can't oppose you, and I think that's wrong. And I think that we have to really call it out, even when it's people who are on, our side. I think wrong is wrong and right is right, and we should all be mindful of the kind of tone that we set in this country.
Absolutely, and be mindful. Charlie Kirk is an American. We're here on. We share the same soil with him. That having been said, but whenever you hear about, you know, whenever you hear that someone's been killed, this is the impact that it has, and this is happening over and over and over and over again in ways big and small, big numbers and small numbers. Rush Jarwish, as we begin this conversation, I wanted you to comment on that because this story to me is just it's too consequential for us not to address it. Rush. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, Rush, you're muted. It's okay. We're gonna work this out. I got you, I think. Rush? Well, you know what, Renee, you go on and we'll wait for Rush to come on up. It's okay. It's okay. Right. Renee?
Thanks for having me on with your distinguished panel. Um, I hate to hear that anyone has been killed. Um, that's just not shooting someone isn't the way to solve things. But we live in a violent country. We're headed by a president who is very violent in his words and in his actions, and he's setting a tone that is very dangerous in this country. My thoughts and prayers go out to um, his family and to his
Mhm.
loved ones. And, we have to do something to change this gun violence that we have. We have to have stricter gun laws. Personally, I don't think anybody needs guns, but we have to do something. Too many people are being killed, and we have to do better.
Absolutely. Rush, are you back with us, my dear brother and friend? You know what? Come out and come back. Okay? And what we'll do is begin the conversation oh boy, as we talk about 2026, because that's a very real part of where we are right now. Anytime you're watching Congressman Cleaver, who by name President Trump has said, we want him out. And it's the nature of the gerrymandering, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. President Trump got 58% of the vote, okay, but they're going to take 90% of the representation when they redraw this congressional map. This is insane. But
Yeah,
you said that this was coming.
yeah. I mean, this is what we unfortunately saw coming when Texas they headed to Texas. They weren't going to stop in Texas. They weren't going to stop in red states. I mean, they were going to go to Missouri. They were going to go to Florida. They were going to go to other states. I know Congressman Cleaver. He is a fraternity brother. He's someone that I have had dinner with my mentor, Congressman Al Green, a very good man, a very humble man that, as you said, it used to be a former mayor, that is a man of God and a man of faith. He has led his district well and been reelected over and over again. And now he is targeted from President Trump. For what reason? He won his election just like you did, President Trump. This is outrageous to me. I'm sorry, but this is not acceptable to me. And they are targeting him because they don't agree with his policies. They don't agree with his being in the way of Trump's Project 2025 MAGA agenda. I think that is repulsive. I think the people of Missouri should be, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, this is wrong because he was duly elected. This is a senior statesman. And I think that his constituents should be very much up in arms, and they should not go quietly in the night, not in a violent way. I got to be clarified that, but they should be outspoken because this is not final yet. Just like we fought the good fight and we knew that it was an uphill battle, that didn't mean that we didn't fight. Missouri, it is your time to stand up and fight. It is your time to say, not on our watch. It is your time to push back against this authoritarian overreach and an attempt to take out a sitting member of Congress, not because he fairly lost an election, but because of this racial gerrymander in a mid-decade redistrict. This is terrible precedence. If they really wanted to take him out and they wanted to do it outside of an election, it should have been during the 2030 after the next census when they could at least justify reapportioning the districts after the census. But to do this in the mid-decade redistricting there's no precedence for this. This is really uncalled for, unnecessary, and I hope people understand this is not normal. This is very much abnormal. And so I'm happy that we're talking about it, but I'm sad that we're talking about it because this reality is probably they're going to do it. Why are they going to do it? Because they can, because they know that the Supreme Court is likely to uphold it. This could be a clear violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And this Supreme Court will turn a blind eye on it. If Missouri does it because they can do it, because Trump has basically told them to do it, just like Governor Abbott bended at the knee, then this sends a terrible precedent moving forward on just getting rid of people just because you don't want them in office anymore. And so we're going to draw a map to eliminate, Santita. It could be next thing they could say, well, it'd be different because there's a Democrat governor. But assuming Illinois had a Republican governor like they had before, they can say, you know what? We don't like Jesse Jackson, so we're going to take out his son. This is crazy. This is crazy. That's why I'm hoping that we will fight. Yeah, we will fight. We will fight to the finish, and be able to stop this. This is a slippery slope, and if they do this, like I believe they will, then there should be no blue state governor that doesn't respond, just like Governor Newsom did. I know, Santita, that's not your philosophy, but my thing is, if they're going to do it to our congressional members in red states, then guess what? In blue states, we got to do it to their congressional members, because that's the only way you level the playing field.
Well, see, to me, when you've got 900,000 plus Black and brown people in Texas who are unregistered to vote, and the Democrats are not launching any meaningful campaign to register these people to vote, because you can actually run the tables on this. At the height of the Reagan Revolution, after the '84 presidential campaign, where Reverend Jackson, the first time he registered more voters than anyone in the history of the Republic, he went out and he kept registering people to vote. So he came out of '84, and in '86, the Democrats took back the Senate because they just they outworked folks, but they have not learned that lesson. And Rush Darwish, I mean, the Democrats are hemorrhaging support. I mean, as we look at, I can't wait to finish reading Kamala Harris's book. But that having been said, it was like they did not let the Palestinians on the main stage. You got progressives of every background who walked away from the convention in Chicago furious. And then they've done no postmortem on that. And there has been no effort to make amends. I'm like, are you kidding me? How do you expect? I mean, I realize these people are redistricting Texas Representative Ron Reynolds and Renee Criswell, but they're not registering anyone to vote, and they're not inspiring people. I mean, Rush, what say you?
Well, first of all, it comes down to having simple messages. And, I'm considered a Democrat, but you have to give credit where credit's due. When you talk about the Republicans, I understand their messaging better than I do the Democrats. For example, the Republicans have about 2 to 3 hard talking points, and the voter universe is very dedicated to these 2 or 3 talking points. It comes down to women's rights, the right to own a gun, and probably one other issue that they, religion, of course, the conservative party. But it's very simple and to the point. And the voter universe is very dedicated to to those points. Now, as for the Democrats, that is where the problem is. And it's very, very complicated to a high degree, but also very simple. It's come to the point where the Democratic Party has got to choose a lane. And the problem is the party does not choose a lane. Now, as a Palestinian American, as you mentioned with the DNC last year, they had a clear path to choose a lane. They had the data that showed that supporting Palestinian rights, supporting humanitarian aid, supporting funding any type of weapons to fund a genocide is wrong. They had the data on their side. But you know what they did? They followed old money. They followed the Israeli PACs, the pro-Israeli PACs, and they decided to just ignore it. So now here we are again, getting ready for the midterm, and of course, about 3.5 years from now. And the Democrats are going to have to make that choice. What lane are you going to be on? Are you going to be on the lane of justice, of what is right? Or are you going to just stay quiet and be very, how do I put this, not very vocal about the issues that matter to the middle class? So that's where we're at. And until we continue to be this way, that is the way it's going to be. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. But if I were right now in the room, if I was playing fantasy Democratic strategist, I would have to go to them and say, hey, the time has come. You must choose a lane, and you've got to stick with it. And you've got to stick with it for 10 years. And you've got to put your money behind it as well. And for me, it's about justice for Black and brown communities. It's about justice for what's happening in Palestine. And hey, how about this 2 words? Middle class America. Middle class, we forgot about them as well. So these are the simple talking points, but the Democrats have made it awfully complicated because they have no identity right now.
Well, and poverty. I mean, because Americans are struggling.
Yeah. Well,
but look at the groups who you enumerated. The Black community. They lost the Hispanic community. They lost the Palestinian community. I mean, my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, he said, he was one of the original signatories on the ceasefire, the ceasefire statement that came out of Congress. And he said, well, first of all, it was the right thing to do. He said, but if you think I can come home to my kids without signing this, you are out of your mind. And my nephew, his son, Noah, stuck his head back into the kitchen. He said, that's right, because you weren't going to get in this house. Because, I mean, that's where these kids are. And they are taking these issues very seriously. And I see, and you got Renee because she was nodding vigorously because she has been in the chat line for the longest time. But I want you to know she has been furious about all of these issues. Well, what is striking you, Renee? What is resonating with you?
Well, when the Democrats had their convention here, my daughter and I were out there protesting about what was going on in Palestine. And I was very upset that they didn't let anybody on the main stage to speak at the convention about an issue that the whole world could see was wrong. They were committing genocide. And had they spoken out about it, had they let a representative get on the stage, and there were people that could have chosen to get on that stage, the outcome of the election, I think it would have been different. You can't support a genocide and then think that people who are against it are going to vote for you. Even though I did vote for Kamala Harris because I knew voting for Trump or having Trump get into that office would be much worse than if she had gotten in. I think she would have been much different than Biden was. I couldn't have voted for Biden. I'm just being honest, because without Biden's actions, Trump would not be president right now. Biden and so many Democrats voted with Republicans for this genocide that's going on. And one of the problems I see with the Democrats, you have the Republicans, they're in lockstep with one another. The Democratic Party, they have a big tent, but some of those people in the Democratic Party could just as easily fit in with those racist Republicans, because some of them have voted with the Republicans. Fetterman has voted with Republicans to confirm some people that never should have been confirmed. Slocum has voted with some of them. And I don't understand it. But our party accepts everybody, but we have to do better at the top with those who are in leadership positions, so that the issues that affect the people they're supposed to be serving, those issues have to actually be addressed. Had the Democrats, when they got into office in 2021, had one of their top priorities been a voting rights act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I'm sorry, that might not be the exact name of it, but had they focused their attention on that, like Biden, the candidate Biden said he was going to do when he was running, Trump may not be in office. They may not have lost the midterm elections in 2022 had they looked out for the people who helped him get into office in 2021 when he won in 2020. I think they've taken us for granted. And I think this country has a whole lot of people in charge who are white supremacists, and they do want to take us back. When you look at who Trump has surrounded himself with, they are white supremacists and they don't want us here. And when you look at who has helped Trump and some of these right-wing people get to where they are, get to being in power in state legislatures and in Congress, you have to look at groups like ALEC, the American Legislative Executive Council or Exchange Council, one of the other. I didn't get much sleep last night, Santita. So my brain isn't functioning at 100%.
It is.
But ALEC played a role. I have an article. It's called the American Prospect Newsletter. It's from the American Prospect Newsletter. And it talks about how in 2019, as early as 2019, they were working to try to help Trump overthrow the results of the election. 10 months before the election of 2020, they were already trying to strategize and come up with plans to say that the vote was fraudulent. Before one vote was cast, they were doing that. And they've been supporting these right-wing groups, these right-wing politicians, sponsoring them. They bring legislators together, and they feed them, they give them ideas, and they give them bills to pass, bills to take back to their own state houses to pass. So you see all these different red states with almost word for word the same exact legislation that they pass. Well, these people have been busy for a long time getting people into power. And while I was researching, I saw that the guy who started ALEC, which started in Chicago, where so many bad things just happened to start politically, but he also was one of the founders of the Heritage Foundation. Oh, so they also help put people on our Supreme Court so they can uphold Trump's bad policies, like saying that immigrants, you can look at them and say, oh yeah, you look like an immigrant, I can arrest you without due process. These people have been working behind the scenes for a long time. And just like they sponsor a lot of Republicans, you've got AIPAC sponsoring some of the Democrats. And it seems like some of their legislation works together for the bad of the people.
Well, I mean, I think that's the issue. I mean, because Representative Reynolds, you're in leadership in the Democratic Party of Texas, and the thing is, with all due respect, Renee, we don't accept everybody. They would not let the Palestinians on the stage in Chicago, on the main stage. They were at McCormick Place, which is where they were having, the morning sessions. Yeah, but they wouldn't let them on the main stage. And there are several Palestinians who are very active in the Democratic Party, who are very mainstream. First of all, you can't get on the stage unless they approve your remarks. They run them. I'm a living witness. They put them on the teleprompter. Now, Reverend is someone who goes off script, but he's so disciplined that he knows what to say. He has his lane figured out, Rush. That having been said, I just see the hemorrhaging. I mean, structurally, progressives and Democrats, if you will, are already behind the eight ball. We've had David Daley on the show numerous times. He said, wait a minute. We have been gerrymandered out of power, and it will take basically an act of God to change that. Okay. I don't see the Democrats doing anything to change that around. I mean, I'm sorry, you were about to say, Renee?
They might let us in, Santita, but they might try to silence us once we get there, or not let us have the full power that we need. They can censure people like Rashida Tlaib and Representative Al Green, who actually, I admired him when he spoke out, when he hollered out when Trump was not
when
telling
he
the
shook
truth.
that cane in his face.
And some Democrats voted along with the Republicans on that too. So it's a big tent with all kinds of people, but not all of them are out to help all the people.
Representative Reynolds, what is going to happen here? I mean, because you have so many young people who walked away from 2024 saying, I'm done. I don't think we really understand, Rush and Renee and Representative Reynolds. I don't think we really understand that the duopoly has been broken. I mean, the Democrats, in terms of stated popularity, have fewer adherents than the Republicans. How that can happen, given their policies, is that's criminal. And so you got to help me to understand, is there anything that can be done? And I certainly want each of you to answer. No, Rush, you were about to say?
Santita, I got to share a story with you all. You were talking about the DNC. I was in a meeting at the McCormick Place, myself and about 15 activists from around the country. And the belief was that once we realized that it was a firm no, that they're not going to have somebody from the Palestinian American community speak at the DNC, we said, all right, let's see if we could at least have him add one sentence. I kid you not. And the sentence that we wanted to be added in at the time, Vice President Kamala Harris's remarks was something of the nature that said that when it comes to providing aid to Israel to hurt other people or to destroy civilians, America has a red line and we will not stand for that. Essentially saying that we cannot fund armed weapons to hurt civilians. That is our red line. And by the way, it was much more eloquently said. It was literally one sentence. The sentence was written. We all agreed. One of our key people who's well connected with the DNC went right to them and they said they would consider it. What I put again with the bunny ears. And sure enough, we all sat and we watched Kamala's speech. It absolutely was not put in the speech, not even a sentence.
Well,
So this
now,
gives
what was
you
the
all
impact? So
huh?
when that happened, what happened? What did you all say?
We were furious. Some of the organizations, of course, put out statements. But here is the problem, Santita, is that the Democrats are terrified. 95% of them are. Not your brother, Congressman Jackson, not Chewy Garcia, not Rashida Tlaib, not Delia Ramirez. Thankfully, a lot of these folks are here from right here from Illinois. Rashida being from Michigan and Ilhan Omar. But
And Danny
95% of
Davis?
Danny, well, no, Danny Davis is not. He's not considered really pro-Palestinian. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
He's
I
what
think.
he's called. He is not really considered like on the pro-Palestinian side. He's been in some areas, but the point is, the Democratic Party, by and large, is absolutely terrified by the pro-Israeli pact. When will that moment come? Well, here's when it's going to come.
Mm.
We've had many people, not me, that have talked directly to the DNC and said, get ahead of this message now. Start with your pro Palestinian message now. Stand up for humanitarian rights now. And they have pretty much said no. So the way this is going to work is, and this is how it always works, is that people need to start losing elections. And it needs to be because of this issue. And I do believe it's going to happen. And the minute seats are lost, the minute Democratic congressmen are losing seats, and the data shows it's because they're not supporting Palestine, this is when all of a sudden the wake-up call, the arising will come. But unfortunately, that's the only way they're going to learn, because right now they're in what I call the comfort zone. They'd rather take the money. It always comes down to the money. And until they start losing their jobs, they're going to keep taking the money from the pro-Israeli pacts.
Well, the money, and they've got a chokehold on the Congress, quite frankly. When you get in there and you see this, because you know that you hold elective office and it's on the state level as well. When I was working on the Hill, it was almost 40 years ago, I was in college. Walking in the door with me was a pack from APAC. They knew my name. They knew every intern who walked in the building. And they said, we want to see you. I was like, what? Now, mind you, the man I was working for, Congressman Gus Savage, they ended up pushing him out of office.
Right.
And he said it in a speech on the floor. He said, this speech that I'm about to give is going to get me pushed out of office. And it was a pro-Palestinian speech. He said, but I don't care. This is just the price I'm going to pay. And that's who I worked for. Hallelujah. And mind you, this was like in 91, 92. And so, I mean, we're looking at that and we can't even talk about Haiti. No one's even, I mean, my goodness, it's right here. It's in the hemisphere. And we do everything we can to thwart their burgeoning democracy. That is what we've done. I mean, so it's like when you talk about these progressive issues, we can't, middle class, we can't talk about poverty. That's just, and more Americans, Renee, Rush, Ron, are impoverished. Yeah. And guess what? When these $1 trillion cuts come to Medicare and Medicaid, and as you see the cuts to WIC and SNAP, and on and on and on, that's why they're deploying all of these people on the streets. because they know what's coming. Now, I hope that people will remain nonviolent. And I hope that they will understand. And I think that people will, but we need to be clear on provocateurs and saboteurs.
We
But
see them.
yeah, I'm saying they're anticipating
Mhm.
a lot of anger because people are not going to be able to eat.
Well, we see some online. I don't know if you guys saw the so-called gang members who are online saying that the troops better not come here because they had better weapons and what they would do to the troops. Um, and I could only wonder who's paying them to say this stuff to try to make Chicago look bad,
And you know
so
they're
that they
being
can
paid.
justify, right? So they could justify coming in with their guns drawn to
And wait a
try to
minute,
hurt
you
us.
know, because they did it in the 60s. They were used to paint graffiti all over urban America, telling people not to vote. Dr. King, the only march that he had that ended violently, it was a Morehouse man, a young black man from Morehouse who was connected to the intelligence community, he and his two friends. And that's what happened. So let's just, everybody, we need to just stop this, because the fact is, you know, now Larry Ellison has replaced Elon Musk as the wealthiest person on earth. All of these corporations, and we saw standing with President Trump at his inauguration, they're making more money than ever before. And be very clear, they were going to stand with Kamala too, because we've had an oligarchy. We've had the oligarchs take over the government. This goes beyond Trump. And both of the major parties are in their pockets. And so, I mean, so what are we going to do? I mean, and you're in leadership, Representative Reynolds. What can be done? What should be done? I mean, what are you all going to do? Because I know it seems like there's this cognitive dissonance between what the people, there is a disconnect between what the people want and what the platform says. It's just there's a disconnect. So what are y'all going to do?
Well, I was waiting I'll address that. I was waiting to respond to something Rush said. I agree. It's going to take people losing some elections for the paradigm to shift, because too many Democratic organizations and elected officials are relying upon the money from the apex of the world, and that has an oversized influence on their ability to denounce the things that they know are wrong, and be on the right side of an issue, for fear that they will be targeted and not receive the funds. Sadly, I was hopeful that Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush would have been able to overcome the tremendous money that was spent against them, because that would have sent a loud message. For unfortunately, they lost, and that gave more fear to many Democrats that they better not go as far as Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, that they'll be targeted. That, Ilhan Umar, she barely won an election. Um, the so that is a reality, and I know that Congressman Green, we anticipate that kind of target against him, quite frankly, in his next election, because he's been very outspoken and very supportive of the Palestinians, and very much called out and denounced what has happened in Gaza. And so it's going to take people mobilizing and voting, because I know so many people that won't say it out loud, but that is what stops them from being able to be on the right side of an issue. They're not as principled, because they are more concerned about the backlash from the financial aspect and the financial hit that they will take. So, having said that, I think it's going to take people voting, and being able to overcome the noise that's created from these outsourced and outsized campaign contributions. What they do, Santita, for those who don't know, I know you know, but they run what they call a IE. They run an IE, and that means that you can pour in millions of dollars. There's no campaign limits. So there's not like a $2,300 campaign limit that you have per person in Congress or whatever, 50 something for the cycle. No, 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 no. They dump in millions and millions and millions, and then they run TV ads. They put mailers with misleading information, and they cast you to be something that you're not. That is what happens. And so I know elected officials that are concerned that that will undo them from being in office if that is on the other side of them. And so for me, I don't operate in that fear, but the majority of them do, quite frankly. And look at Leader Jeffries. I mean, he's not going to say anything because he receives a lot of that money.
Mm-hmm.
He receives a lot of it. Chuck Schumer, he's not going to say anything about it because guess what? He too receives a lot
No.
of
Yeah.
He beyond receiving the money, he's
Right.
the embodiment of it.
Yeah.
They take exactly. They take it, and I should add this as well, is that, and we have to acknowledge this. This is not just a Republican problem; it's a Democrat problem as well. They are equally responsible. And when you bring it to the table about this issue of what they call campaign finance reform, and if you propose the idea of putting a really true cap, a hard cap on each race on the federal level, and say you could only spend X amount, which is, by the way, why we all love the NFL. The NFL has what you call a fixed salary cap.
Mhm.
Every team gets the same amount of money to spend, which means now you have to use your brain as to how you're going to maneuver. But both parties have rejected campaign finance reform. So this is why we are where we're at, is because they like playing by these rules. And you say, Hakeem Jeffries, he's one of the leaders of this. He loves it. It plays to his advantage. So, man, guys, I got to tell you, politics is corrupt, and you can't put a party on this. It's corrupt on both sides. And one more thing I want to go back to: we talk about gerrymandering. Again, calling things the way they are. Here in Illinois, the Democrats have gerrymandered Illinois for the past 40 years. If you take a look at our districts, you'll faint as to how they are cut up, and they are specifically cut up to favor the Democratic Party. Now, am I happy about that? Because, of course, I'm a Dem. Sure. Does it make it right? It doesn't. So either you do things the right way, or you're going to play by the rules, or not play by the rules, and they're going to affect you some way, shape, or form.
Because to your point, I'm not happy with that.
Right.
The thing is, look, if we're going to what is fair is looking at the demographics and apportioning the districts appropriately. To me, that's fair. And then let the marketplace go where it goes. That's all you just be fair. I don't want anyone gerrymandered out of power. That's not fair. And I'm not going to say, as a Democrat, and I'm a registered Democrat, I'm not going to say that I want to see Republicans disadvantaged. No, I want every American to have a voice. See, part of the reason this boy is dead today is because people feel that they don't have a voice. Beyond his rhetoric, which was white supremacist, there was no question about it. And it was mean-spirited. He felt that Black people were taking from him. I get all of that. I'm still not going to cheer his murder. That's a horrible thing. That having been said, what is also horrible is the sense that, Lani Guinier, who could have been one of the assistant attorneys general, she was put forth, as you remember, during the Clinton administration, one of the foremost legal minds that the country has ever produced. She said, we've got to grow up in our politics. After she was savaged, she couldn't even be heard. She was just savaged because you know what she said? We can't have I win, you lose politics. We have to, if I get the majority, great. But the minority's got to get something too. I remember when Reverend was running for president, If you got 50.1% of the vote, you had all the delegates. So
Right.
his campaign in 84, he was running around the country saying part of it beyond standing on his issues. He said, where are my delegates? Where are my delegates? My vote tally and my delegate count, they're miles apart. At some point, we ought to be tired of being unfair to people. And see, it trickles down in our policies, Rush and Ron and Renee. Rush, Ron, and Renee. I got the R's here today. Uh-oh. Okay. I mean, it's just so we can't even conceive of a world in which we're going to be fair to Palestinians. We can't conceive of a world in which we're going to be fair and stop meddling in the affairs of Haiti. We can't conceive of you don't take out all of the Yemeni prime minister and his whole cabinet. Are you crazy? Who does that? Why are you gonna mess with Iran?
This
Why are
country.
you gonna mess with Iran? What are you
I was
doing?
gonna say- but there you go, Santita. This is why, though. Look at everything we just discussed on your show. Everything are all bullet points as to why people don't vote. You can gerrymander. It's why black and brown communities say screw it. Look at everything we talked about. We talked about how we have these PACs, these pro-Israeli PACs, and other PACs as well that are controlling Washington D.C. We talked about gerrymandering, how they're both it's Republican, Democrat. It's completely unfair how these districts are cut up. Think about this. Could you blame somebody? And I know we are all here in this forum preaching for people to vote, and we go out, we want our communities to vote.
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, when somebody says, I don't want to vote, and they have a reason as to why they don't want to vote, I have a hard time arguing with them because this system is so beyond corrupt. It is so unfair. It does not favor the low class, the middle class. It does not favor the impoverished class. So
Mhm.
this is why we are where we are at. And again, we've got to keep fighting, but we also have to be honest with ourselves that our issues go much past the Republican Party and Donald Trump. It goes much beyond that, and I think we need to start acknowledging that. If we're really, we got to be honest with ourselves.
If you know what, and if we're honest with ourselves, then we can win. And I'm not saying the Democrats can win. I'm talking about the people winning.
People, right.
I could not care less about a party you all. Really. I'm a registered Democrat because otherwise I would not be able to vote for a lot of the people I want to vote for.
Mhm.
One of whom is my brother, but yes, that's not the only one. Because you have to declare a party in Illinois,
Right. And the
which to
primaries.
me is that bothers me. I'm like, that's none of your business. Let me vote. Just stop it. Because at the end of the day, I'm still looking at $1 trillion in cuts
Mhm.
to Medicare and Medicaid. Yale has said 50,000 Americans at the very least are going to die every year moving forward, and the numbers are going to pile up. I mean, really? That's not what I want. That's not my vision of what America should be like. I don't care what your party is. You know what? Everybody's feeling some kind of way. It's all right until it's someone you love whose life is in danger. I shouldn't go bankrupt getting well. I mean, what is this? This is ridiculous. And the issues that Americans care about, the parties won't touch. At least the Republicans looked at a Donald Trump, and the Republican establishment do not like him. Trust and believe. But you know what? They saw him winning, and they said, you know what? We'll ride this horse. Now we'll surround him once he gets into the White House, but we're gonna let him go. What did we do to Bernie Sanders? We buried him. He's still pulling 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 100,000 people when there's a rumor that he's going to show up. That is just crazy. And so do you really want to win? Do you deserve to win? You're not going to frighten me into winning. You're not going to frighten me into voting for you. You have to be more than not being Trump. Trump is 80.
Yeah.
Okay. He's not the point, really. He's not. So everybody, I got like 3 minutes left for everybody. I'm gonna give everybody a minute. Oh, let me take a deep breath. Let me take a deep breath. Let me start with you, Rush. My
Yeah.
part 3 R's club today.
Even though I had some technical difficulties in the beginning, I have to go back to Charlie Kirk. And I know, Santita, you are absolutely right. Nobody condones murder. Absolutely not. But once again, we got to call things the way they are. This guy, Charlie Kirk, went from city to city, campus to campus. He was a hate mongerer, and he bullied high school, or in many cases, of course, college kids as well. And no, the answer is not murder. The answer is not violence. But goodness gracious, when you are going around the nation exciting hate, when you are going and denouncing a genocide that is happening in Gaza, we have to all learn from this, is that there has to be some level of consequence and an understanding that this kind of rhetoric is not acceptable, not to the point of murder, not to the point of this violent act. But if you are going to go out and you're going to go travel the nation and you're going to be posting content nonstop, denouncing the innocence of the thousands of lives that have been murdered in Gaza, to denounce black and brown communities, I got to tell you, God rest his soul. But at the same time, I'm not going to weep, Santita. I'm sorry. I understand that, yes, we pray for his family, we pray for his kids. But when I heard he passed, it was more like, oh yeah, he wasn't a good guy. He wasn't preaching love and peace from city to city. So forgive me, guys, for not feeling, the sadness that some people might be feeling right now.
Oh, Renee, duly noted. Renee?
I guess you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But, I was thinking about the politicians who think they have to sell themselves to whomever, ALEC, APAC, whomever. I think that if people went back to the old fashioned way of grassroots knocking on people's doors and having forums to let people know what they're doing in Congress, and then actually trying to pass legislation that people can see and feel because it will affect them in positive ways, I think people will vote for them. You just have to show people that you're actually there to represent their needs and not just to represent yourself. I think that would work.
And go to the paper ballot, because I don't trust the machine. Yeah, I said it.
Me either.
I said it. I said it. Reverend Jackson said this more than 30 years ago. I look. No.
Santita, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, go on.
There's still a lawsuit in Rockland County, New York, where they're contesting the results of the election, or at least they were contesting it.
Yeah.
And if you have people in power like the tech moguls, can't they control some voting machines?
Of course they can. So that's why I don't trust any of it.
Yeah.
But these people, when people are talking about voter reforms, they're not talking about that. They just want to ID me to death. So, enough. Representative Ron Reynolds from the great state of Texas.
Santita, I want to end the way I started, and I do respect what Russ stated, and I understand his sentiments, but I just want to reiterate that there's no place for violence in political discourse. I will agree that we can vigorously debate, and we may hate each other because of our opposing views. You may be a white supremacist, neo-Nazi, call me the N-word. I would still not wish death upon you as a person because of where my faith is. But I do hope that we will stop the rhetoric in terms of, the way that we demonize some people, the way that we wish evil and harm among people that we disagree with. So my prayer is that we will find a way that we can continue to have healthy and vigorous debate and dialogue. It may be very passionate, but I hope that it never turns deadly. There's no place for that in our discourse. There's a place for that in war, where people are literally attacking each other and trying to take each other out, but that is mutual combat. But without that, I'd say that there's no place for it in this country.
I don't want any more of it. I just don't want any more of it. I'm done. Done. I don't want any more of it. Dr. King preached love, and he was killed by a missile. The fact is, we are still the most violent country on the face of the earth. That's what we import. That's what we export. The bombs that we drop overseas are exploded home. And it's got to stop.
Yeah.
I'm well aware. I'm not naive. I'm very clear on the philosophy of Charlie Kirk and that which he preached. I strenuously disagreed with it. And it was an affront to me and all that I believe. That having been said, don't want him hurt. I don't want anyone hurt. And we're gonna have to grow up in our politics, but more than that, we have to grow spiritually. The commandment is to love each other. It's not a suggestion. We're not being nudged into it. God told us to love each other. And you know, everybody, hey, I respect everyone's belief system, but I'm a committed Christian. I'm not a casual one. I believe that Jesus was the way. And I believe that when you look at all of these wonderful religions, they do not say that you need to kill people. They preach love. They preach peace. I've seen it in Islam. I've seen it in Judaism. I've seen it, the Hindus. I've seen it all around the world. They say that we've got to love each other. We've got to learn to be fair to each other. And you have to be very, very careful about what you say and the tone that you set, because words have power. And you do not need to diminish someone to elevate yourself. Because if you're in a hole, I've seen giants in holes and I've seen small people on stilts. And you're still a small person if you're on stilts. And you're still a giant if you're in a hole. We have to get better than this, everybody. And not just better, we have to get well. So my thoughts and prayers do go to Charlie Kirk and his family. And I mean that. I can disagree with him all day long, and I did. That having been said, I didn't want to see anything happen to him. Didn't like to see what happened today. And if you think it's going to stop at Charlie Kirk, sadly, you are mistaken. We're going to go back and forth. And if we do an eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth, nobody's going to be able to eat and nobody's going to be able to see. So you just need to stop it right now. Let's love each other. And let's go beyond tolerance. I don't believe in tolerance. I believe in love. And let's embrace each other. And even when you disagree, just bite down real hard on your teeth and take it. And know that love and freedom belongs to everybody in the world. Stop the killing in Palestine. Stop it. Stop it in the Sudan. Stop it in Haiti. Stop it on our streets. Stop it everywhere. Stop it. Feed people, house people, clothe people, educate people. That's what we have to do. Recognize that every human being is God's vision personified. We're all God's children. Every last one of us. We come from the same source, each one of us. Each one of us. We come from the same place. Each person on earth is your sister or your brother. Don't you forget that. And stop seeing someone as your other. They are your sister or your brother. Know that. I love you, everybody. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Amen, amen, amen. The Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.